Hello, friends, and welcome back to VHYES. Craig's here with me. Craig's here on the video with me. Wait, Craig's here on the video with me. I don't know if he's going to end up on the top, but he's there right now. What are we doing here? Well, it's almost the end of the year. That means holiday time. For us at VHYES, it also means birthday time. Don't you hate it when your birthday ends up on a big holiday like that and everyone just wants to talk about the holiday and no one cares that you were born? Well, we were born, and now we've spent a year making content, starting to learn, let's say that, Craig, starting to learn how to do YouTube stuff, how to be a YouTube type person. And now we've gotten to the end of a year and we're not dead. We did it. We actually got over 1,000 subs in like 11 months. That was last month. So we were ahead of that curve. That was the only goal I really had. So we thought, we're getting close to Christmas time, getting close to birthday time. Why don't we get together, catch up a little bit with each other, what we've been watching over the year. We watched a couple things together, but Greg and I don't live in the same place. That's why he's on this thing. But we've seen a bunch of movies. We want to talk about it. We want to talk about our favorite Christmas movies. Maybe do a little chit-chatting, let you get to know us a little bit better, talk about where we come from and why on earth we're doing this to ourselves. So hang out with us. Get ready to sip a little cocoa. Nog. Nog would be good for this. This is a nog situation. And come enjoy a little VHYES time at the holidays, at the birthday days. Yeah, the birthday days. We're workshopping the title. Come on with us.
It's been a year.
It's been a year.
It's been wild. It's been just a year since we officially, I think, launched. We launched on the 11th of December. I think was the first.
I've been telling everyone the 12th. I don't know why I shorted myself a day, or I don't know.
I think it was the 11th. That's what I remember.
You're right. I got that notification from YouTube itself saying like, hey man, you did it on the 11th.
So that was our first video that we launched. The channel went up, I think, around November. We did launch early, but there's way more. It was
sitting there.
Way more to that story is that we had to develop this before we even launched, and that was a long process. I think even just thinking about like how long it took to come up with all the graphics, the actual name. We had a scare on the name a little bit because there are.
No, well, don't tell people now. Don't tell people to get on YouTube.com and search for the feature film VHYES.
Yes, so
which is not us.
It's like, we workshopped some titles. VHYES came to the top, and I was like, "That's great, I love it." And then didn't even think until it was time to put the channel up. I should have probably done this and look it up and go, "Oh God!" But
yes,
we found our workaround, and we're happy to be here in the VHYES conglomerate that we are.
Yeah, we're in the space. We're sort of tangentially related to nobody else, and we're our own entity legally.
Yeah, because it's VHYES with Jesse and Craig.
That's true. That's how you do the branding.
That's a different
That's how
thing.
You dodge it.
And we are a VHYES channel. So
that's a good point too. They're not a channel. They're just a movie. And I haven't actually tried it yet. I don't know if I have a weird resistance. Do you have that feeling of like, if I actually go watch that movie, it's going to become real in my mind, and then I'm going to be walking around being like, VHYES is a great, oh no, now I only think about the movie. Like, are you worried about, I have a fear of that.
Nah, I think we're okay.
Okay, then I'm going to go watch it tonight.
So yeah.
I think it's going to be great.
But yeah, 1 year, like, I can't believe we're here. It's been a wild ride, and I wish I could have done more, but we did what we could. We're working on it.
Well, that's not a bad jumping off point to in talking about this year. A lot of it has been about trying to find a way to balance our lives with bringing this project on. And, we have different scenarios when different challenges, and everybody does, right? It's one of those things that I'm feeling a lot from the YouTube creators that I watch as I'm making this more is like, what is the rest of their day like? What is the rest of their life like? Is their week? Like, how many of these guys are actually working and fitting this in, and how many are trying to make it just full time doing this? It's crazy. But for people, we don't have to get into specific details. You don't want to get doxxed at work. But Craig has a big job that keeps him very busy all the time. I've got 2 kids. So I'm also busy.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah,
they play sports.
Yeah.
What do you want me to do?
Very busy.
I'm all over the place. So yeah, that's a lot of the adjustment, right? Has been that, and that's going to be kind of the evolution of what we're able to do over time. Because it's important to me too, and I'm not speaking for you, Craig, but it's important to me that this project feel fun and inspiring, and it is a thing that makes me want to work on it, makes me want to go to it when I'm done either substitute teaching, which I also do now, or something else. And I actually want to do. I don't want this to become a stressful thing where we feel like, oh no, we are burdened by this. Like, that's a silly thing. It's very silly in a life full of burden to create another burden to drive you insane.
Well, yeah. But I think certainly some of the most fun things I did through this year had definitely been for the channel. Like, so many hilarious times, like just editing the stuff where you would either mess up or you'd specifically like throw something in there to throw me off, or reference me as a DJ, or even the callbacks to me in the video when I'm not supposed to be in the video have just been hysterical. And I love the narrative that I've locked you in the room and so you have to talk about movies. Like,
I can't believe you're blowing it now.
It's the best.
I can't believe we're revealing that there is a door here that I have access to. But yeah, that's actually been a fun mini game for me in all my recordings. I get started with writing up the script on the holdup and be like, how do I work Craig into this? Like, what is the deal on this one? You know, I love we've got some, I don't want to spoil it, but we're working on the new season of Hollywood Holdup now. We're doing all sci-fi movies. Mm-hmm. So I had a lot of fun comparing Craig to Paul Reiser in a interesting sci-fi sequel that might have been a clue about. So yeah, but that's true. That's a year. You find out a lot about what your capacity is in a year, what your energy level is like, you know, just keeping your own interest up. You have to love to do it to kind of keep wanting to do it. So I think we found an interesting blend this year in being able to make longer form videos when we could, and me being able to spit out shorts to sort of build a general audience, right, over time. Because like I don't know how many of you, if any of you are watching this that do this yourself or have some experience with YouTube yourself. One of the things that was fascinating to me was learning how quickly we learned that each new short or new video was being watched by almost an entirely new audience every time. Because there's so many, frankly, hundreds of millions, if not billions of people at this point watching YouTube, that even though people subscribe to us, and we are now well over 1,000 subscribers, we're still finding brand new people sort of randomly with shorts, right? That's kind of the great organic thing about those. They just go out and all sorts of different people for different reasons happen to come across you. So I think it's a good strategy for us with our capacity levels to be pumping those things out, which can do the broad net thing. And then we get to keep working on the Hollywood holdups and the tier list and more ideas that we have that we want to work on, that then sort of get the audience deeper following of people who are really into, my meeting ended. Hold on. Man, what a year. What a year. What an awesome thing you tricked me into doing. And that's what I have here. On the category of how did the channel start, I wrote one note. Craig talked me into it. And I'm so glad that you did. It's been an amazing year. It's been a year of like discovery and learning, right? It's one of those things where I'm super proud of everything we've done. I'm super proud that within less than a year, we were able to get over 1,000 subscriptions. We're rolling. I was just watching a content creator that does F1 stuff. I follow F1 racing. He's been doing it for years and years, only has 750 subs. I never even thought about someone that I watch that much would have less subs than we now do, which is a crazy thought. And that feels really good. That's an inspiring kind of thought to make you want to keep going and keep moving. Just say like, we're in the mix. This is the mix. We're now in it. We still don't fully understand what's happening, but with every new video, with every new conversation we have, every new thing that we try, we're getting a little bit better at it. And it's just feeling like an organic, good experience and not a stressful, bad experience. And I think if anything, that's really our goal, right?
So talking about the formation of the channel real quick, it was thing we met for drinks, and I just kind of dropped the idea. Hey, I watch people on YouTube talk about movies. You could talk about movies, so you should talk about movies on YouTube, and we could probably team up, make that happen. And then I think we met again several months later. You're like, were you serious about that? Okay. And then we show up to the same bar. You have a laptop, and you're showing me, here's all my ideas. We ran through it real quick, and I was blown away. Like, this is a thing. Like, this is going to happen.
Could be a thing.
And we officially launched, I think, in November. The channel existed, and then our first video was in December. But there was months in the summer of actually developing it, back and forth. What's the what logo ideas? What's the color scheme? What's the look of it? The graphics? What even is a Hollywood holdup? How does it, like, you would record, edit it together, and then I would say, okay, that, but pretty.
Yeah.
How do I make it pretty? What do I do? How do I mess it up? Like intentionally mess it up, make it look a little weird.
Yeah.
So that's kind of been how we've been putting it together. And just quick recap highlights challenges. Like the stuff we learned about YouTube is they don't allow Crocodile Dundee in Australia for some reason.
Hilarious.
We can't post that. It is not, our Hollywood Hold Up is not available in Australia. Rookie of the Year, they would not allow us to use dialogue from Rookie of the Year, so we had to redub it by ourselves. I made sound effects. I had to clap and go, and it was hilarious. You did a very good Busey, Gary Busey.
One of the better Buseys.
They wouldn't let us use for D2 the Mighty Ducks what's the character's name? He sings We Are the Champions.
Oh yeah, it's Averman at the end.
Averman.
Singing it very badly at the camp.
We let it roll, or it was originally in the video. We just let it ride, and YouTube said no, and so I cut it down to like 6 seconds, and YouTube's like, okay, so
what you slip that much Averman through?
Yeah, so we're learning how to swim upstream with copyright infringement and such, like copyright restrictions.
I got rocked not that long ago doing a short about, I was working on Ninja Turtle stuff, and I was kind of doing a bunch of Ninja Turtle videos and shorts and diving into it. It's one of my favorite franchises, especially those first two. So I thought, what would be funny is do a short that's basically MTV Cribs, but for the Foot Clan layer. And the first shot's a kid smoking a cigar. And they're like, what are you, a monster? I was like, oh yeah, right. No kid stuff.
No kids.
Dang.
Yeah. Even if it exists out in the world, we don't abide.
Even if the rule says it has to be clearly fictional, and I gave them a clip from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, fine. I get it.
And then did one of our The Rock shorts get banned or taken removed for using WWE footage? Did that happen? I remember getting a notification.
I don't know.
I think one of them.
I ever actually used real Oh, you know what? It might have been on Fighting with My Family, because there's stuff where he's like at an arena or something, and he is playing himself. But I don't think it got struck. It just gets one of those content warnings on the.
Oh, I thought I remember it being an email, so I was worried. Okay. So it might have been removed. I don't know. So, we'll have to check that later. We learned, don't diss the original Roadhouse, and don't come for Jake Gyllenhaal.
I'm coming for Jake Gyllenhaal. I'm coming for you, internet. I'm coming for everybody. This soy boy is coming after you.
And the regrets. The only regret I can think of is I forgot to add clips of A Night at the Roxbury to our D2 the Mighty Ducks video. Was in a hurry. Didn't even think about it until like weeks after. It was like, the Mighty Duck Man, I swear to God. What am I doing? What am I even doing? That might have to
be its own series of videos, let alone just another video us talking about our love of Night at the Roxbury, because people are going to need to understand that we're not idiots.
Oh, yeah.
but we do love this stupid movie.
But we shotgunned that into as many of I put them into as many of the original season of Hollywood Hold Up as possible. Yeah. And then season 2, I just didn't have the time. I didn't have the brain cells, I guess. But so that's my regret. Do you have anything quick?
No real regrets. I guess just forgetting, the kid thing and learning about the thing that there's so much of a trigger around footage around kids. It's tough because there's so many great family movies that are like kid adventures that you want to talk about from the 80s and 90s, but kind of losing track of that. I guess it's not a regret. It's just a need to be better about in 25 is learning all the regulations and having it more front of mind. So I don't waste my own time having to go back and go, oh yeah, they're mad again. Right? Just streamlining, just experience, getting the reps.
I had planned to do an About Us video, and I never actually got around to it. So I think we should just kind of, for the people who don't read our About Us section on YouTube, our YouTube channel, just kind of, well, we can explain, how did we meet? I'll just railroad through that real quick. We officially met in 6th grade. We've known each other since 6th grade. Elementary school, we went to middle school. High school, we did theater. We're part of the drama club. In high school, went to college together. We were roommates. Then we went about and got our professional histories and such, and came back and like you said, I talked you into let's do some video, because we're both people who understand film and video, and why not combine the two and make something out of it.
Exactly. We got out of college. You got into news. I got into working on TV and film around Baltimore. That dried up, went out to LA in 2008 and was like, here we go. We're out in LA. COVID changed a lot of that, came back, did some more working on TV and stuff remotely here. And then it was like, while we're here, we just kind of started talking. And this has always been some part of in the background of something I've wanted to do and just needing that kind of kick in the pants. And you delivered it. And now here we are talking about movies on the internet.
And yes, so yeah, my background, I went to school for animation, technically digital art animation, and then got into TV news, promotions, and government cable are the things I've been doing. And so that's what I bring to it is the video editing, the graphics, some writing here and there. But then, give a quick list off of the stuff you've worked for.
Well, when I was in Baltimore as a baby PA, I got really lucky because Craig and I were both going to school in Baltimore, and there was stuff filming around the area. So in our senior year, someone came into the film cage where I was renting out equipment to other film students and said, hey, man, I'm working on this crazy firefighter movie in Baltimore called Ladder 49, and they're hiring dingbat teenagers to come bring donuts and paychecks to people. So I was like, sign me up. I quite literally skipped out on 2 of my senior year finals. I failed 2 of those classes. I calculated the credits I needed to walk out of there with a diploma and figured out I could take the job and still graduate. So I bailed on a lot of that last bit of school because this was my way in. And it turned out to be the right decision because that led from one thing to another in the area. I ended up working on The Wire for a couple of seasons. Die Hard 4 was there. I worked on that. Started dating my wife during Die Hard 4. That was a big help because Die Hard's her favorite movie. Nice. I worked on a John Waters movie. Then, like I said, it started to dry up. So in 2008, I went out to LA, immediately landed because of a college connection of ours, immediately landed on a TV show for CBS called Harper's Island that you don't remember. No one does. It's okay. They basically did like a 10 Little Indians murder mystery encapsulated in one season of television, which you're saying to yourself, that happens all the time, Jesse. It hadn't been happening all the time at this point. And this one, it did okay. No, it didn't. It failed and ended up losing out in the ratings to reruns of America's Most Wanted on Saturdays. That was my first TV show. Anyway, that led me to getting on to The Good Wife, then on to House of Cards. And House of Cards for Netflix was where it was like game over for me. I'm moving up the ladder, working on a show for a long time. And that's where I got most of my experience. Came out of House of Cards when that finally mercifully ended. Started running my own departments on shows like In From the Cold for Netflix, Homecoming Season 2 for Amazon. And then, like I said, got into COVID, came back, started working remotely from Maryland again, and basically ended up in a phase of my life where I'm wanting to spend more time with my family, with my kids, with that stuff, and not just be raked across hot coals for 19 hours a day. Might get back into it in a few years. We'll see. All right, well, I was looking at a list I was trying to put together of all the movies that I saw this year. And I think at this point in my life, my memory is so bad, there's no way to accurately remember all the movies I saw over the course of a year without taking notes. So I think in 2025, I'm going to have a better habit of actually writing down when I see movies. But I ended up with a pretty good list. Despite all the kid obligations, despite the work stuff, I saw a bunch of movies, and I've got a little bit of a rundown. You can tell me if you agree or disagree with any of these. Madam Web. I highly recommend Madam Web if you like bad movies, because you will laugh at the badness of this movie. It's very funny how bad it is. Rebel Moon. I do not recommend, even if you like bad movies. You will cry. This is very bad. And if you grew up liking Star Wars, like Craig and I grew up liking Star Wars, you might be mad. Because Rebel Moon, if you don't know, was Zack Snyder's pitch to do his own franchise in the Star Wars world, right? Remember this? And they said, no thanks. And he said, hey, Netflix, what if we just change the names of the planets and stuff? Basically, right? And they're like, yeah, Zack Snyder, bring it. So I sat through both of those. Very tough watch. Next up, The Crow remake. I actually thought people were harsh about this. I thought it was better than people gave it credit for, but there's no way people were going to give this movie a fair shake. You know what I mean? It's too near and dear. If you love The Crow, you still love it from when you were a kid and you watched The Crow. No one saw the original Crow in the past 5 years and thought it was any good. You had to grow up with it. So there's no way you're going to break through. But really, my headline, is why is Bill Skarsgård having such a hard time becoming a movie star? I love this guy, right? He's a great Pennywise. He disappears a lot into stuff. He does a lot of stuff in costumes and stuff. But recently, he's been trying to do more leading man stuff. Boy Kills World, which came out in April, was fun. It was kind of like just an attempt at doing a live action anime. But he's getting all these weird, kind of fringy attempts at being a leading man. I don't know if Hollywood just thinks he looks too weird. I'm starting to feel bad for the guy. But anyway, we keep up the love for Billy Skarsgård. New Roadhouse. Little controversy on this channel when I reacted to the trailer for Roadhouse. But I saw it. And I was right about everything. Take that, internet. I'll see you in the comments. Next up, Alien Romulus. Craig and I were talking about this. Here's my note on that. Yes, I wanted the Alien franchise to return to basics. I did. No, I didn't want those basics to include sympathetic kids getting slaughtered because they took their one shot at happiness. Interesting choices. We'll see where they go next in the franchise. Furiosa. Furiosa was this year. I wrote, good, fine, fun. I'm ready to get off the train now. Right? Not bad. Not mad at it. I don't need another one. I think I said even in the end of my review, if I have to wait 10 years to get another movie about the history of Chris Hemsworth's character leading up to Fury, I won't be there. I'll have to wiki that one. Ghostbusters Frozen Empire. Same review as Furiosa. I love Ghostbusters. I'm a sucker. I'm in the tank. It's fine. It was fine. I thought it would just be bad. I thought we would feel like real laziness coming off of Bill Murray and stuff. It really felt like they were all down for the cause, and we're done. We got it. It's over. Once you get Paul Rudd basically in your franchise, just walking around commenting on the meta nature of your own franchise, you've reached the bottom. We have hit the nadir. I don't know if Craig saw the Imaginary Friend movie. It's good. That's good. It'd be creepy just sitting there, an adult in the movie. I looked weird. I took my kids. Is a terrible script. I think if people like it, it's because of the connection they have with Imaginary Friends stuff, coming of age stuff. The script is terrible. And if you ever get around to seeing it, Craig, yes, you do see the ending coming. Everyone does. This is a script that's bad because basically John Krasinski wrote it, right? John Krasinski wrote and directed. He's on a tear, right? He's doing Quiet Place. He's directing every genre now. He's not just Jim from The Office anymore. So he thinks, I'm going to make my big family movie. And I've come up with such a great twist that people are going to get to the end of this and they're going to bawl. They won't believe the twist that I hid the whole time. Except he has to twist himself into a pretzel to not reveal it along the way because it's so obvious. So by the time you get there, you're just like, ha, ha. But anyway, I hear the kids like it. That's a kid movie. Bad Boys Ride or Die. In my, I believe my either trailer reaction or somewhere, I talked about on the channel saying, who even asked for this? Haven't we done this? Didn't we do the third one was Bad Boys for Life? That's a mistake. Bad Boys 3 was known as Bad Boys for Life. Very confusing. However, Bad Boys Ride or Die was way more fun than the last two. Way more fun and just better made. I'm voting right now. I'm proposing to the movie universe that we just excommunicate number 2 and 3, and the Bad Boys franchise goes from Bad Boys to Bad Boys Ride or Die, and it's a beautiful little front and back. Need more making fun of them in the movies. That's why that worked really well. Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, of the movie of the Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. That could just go on forever. Here's my question about these. Why are these movies good? Why? What is the point of making such a good movie franchise if no one gives a shit? I mean, who is still out there clamoring for these? It's like my uncles. You know what I mean? It's like generations before us that grew up with them still apologize for how great it is in those old cheesy movies. But every time they put out another one of these, it's one of the better movies of the entire year. But they're not making crazy money like the other franchises. It feels like it's petering out, but the effort is still there. I literally don't understand. Which reminds me of the next thing, Axel F. One of my favorites of the year, actually. Axel was great because Eddie was still cooking. It's one of those things you get used to seeing Eddie just being old man Eddie in everything he does. And then he jumps into an Axel movie and you're like, oh yeah, no, I see Axel in there. He's actually doing a thing. So I feel the opposite about Axel F as I do about like Ghostbusters and Furiosa. I'm ready for 1 million of these. Just send Axel on vacation, right? We've reached the Shaft in Africa portion of Axel Foley movies, and he can just like become the next Adam Sandler franchise, right? Him and his buddies they go to the moon. Oh, there's bad guys on the moon. They go in an underwater city. There's bad guys down there. Just keep sending Axel on vacation. He stumbles into shit. I love that. It's so funny. So you can color me confused about how all these franchises are being handled, but in a year of sequels, look at this. What I said, Axel F, Kingdom of, Bad Boys, Ghostbusters, Furiosa, Alien, Roadhouse, Crow. Most of them are deep sequels, not even a part 2. We're deep sequel territory. So then this all kind of culminates in the movie I want to talk about that I just saw. So before I dive into that, I thought I'd pause and see if you want to give me a little bit of a rundown on your side, or if you want me to keep rolling through my take on the substance. I'm going to pitch it to you.
Like you said, it was really hard to even remember what movies came out this year. When I was trying to think, I totally forgot about Furiosa, Bad Boys as well, that it was this year. Even Ghostbusters, I had to look that up. Like I totally forgot that was early this year. The only other things I saw were Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare. God, that's hard. If you like the Guy Ritchie thing, if you've seen Man from U.N.C.L.E., it's basically Man from U.N.C.L.E., just jazzed up, I guess. I don't know. But I liked it. It's fine. It was fun to watch. Also, the Deadpool Wolverine, obviously.
For sure. I should have, of course, included that we all saw it. It's a big deal, and we could do a separate segment. You and I could do a whole conversation, I think, on that.
Yeah. And really, Dune Part 2, that was early this year.
And that's on my list of if we want to do a best or worst of the year, I could get into that too for sure. But yeah. What do you remember about the Dune experience?
Phenomenal, just visually, like seeing it on the big screen. Some of it was just some of the what was it? Your wife asked me, "What did you think?" And I was like, "It's just like a dude flexing the whole time, just showing his abs, just like I know what I'm doing." Love it. And I was like the whole time, okay, I love it. Yes, your abs. They're wonderful. But yeah, Bad Boys, I agree. That one was probably one of the better ones. I don't know if we're disowning 2 yet, but it's a bold statement.
If I'm disowning anything from the franchise, it's the last half hour of 2.
Okay.
Because 2 wraps up in Miami, and then they go, no, Act 4. We're going to Cuba or whatever.
Right. Yeah.
Wild.
Yeah. But yeah, Alien, Romulus, I enjoyed. It answers and asks so many questions with the franchise, and really, like, yeah, do we need any more? I don't know. I enjoyed it, but I like you said, it's the like horror style thing of like these kids just get obliterated just cause they stuck their head out when they weren't supposed to.
Feels like a lack of compassion on the side of the filmmakers there, weirdly, right? It's like one of the bare bones rules of filmmaking is you need to be sympathetic when you want to watch a journey of people achieving things. But if you want to see people punished, you don't necessarily want them to be the good people.
Yeah. Because even like horror movies, the people that die are kind of portrayed in a slightly morally questionable light.
That's right. They use the moral ambiguity, or they're stupid, or they're wrong or mean in some way.
Yeah, but these poor kids, man, they just didn't stand a chance.
If anything, that's a movie where Wayland Yutani is flexing the whole time. This is your life. You have no choice.
I did like seeing that aspect of it, of just that this is what it's like living on this planet and how pretty much exploited people are, and how hard it is to get out of your contract just to get off planet and such. That was a really good intro, or really good way to portrayal of the universe that actually felt like it needed to be seen, I guess. But
absolutely, we really haven't had any world building, if you think about it, in the franchises on or around Earth, or a place where people are just living. We are on ships, and then we go to a station or a bad planet where the aliens are, but there's not a lot of seeing what the world building is like at this time. So it's one of those things where I've always been confused about how far into the future, I don't mean the number they put on screen, but I mean technologically wise, culture wise, how far into living in the future we really are. Because that first movie almost feels like They are on a new kind of thing that goes into deep space for salvage, and it's trying to get ore, or it's, you know what I mean? It's like the early days of Avatar, where they found a planet, they're mining it, and they're bringing it back. But it didn't jump out to me in that first movie that people were clearly living among the stars on all these different planets and colonies already. I thought it was more like go to space, come back to Earth. Mm-hmm. Then there's that moment in the beginning of Aliens where they're all waking up. And people are asking, what's with that lady? What's with the new lady who's here? What's up with Ripley? Who is that person? And one of them says, I hear she saw an alien once, right? And what is Hicks's response? He goes, whoopee, implying they see aliens all the time, not xenomorphs, but they've encountered many different alien species, and it's not a big deal. But then there's no more world building around that. There's no more other races of aliens that you run into or anything.
That's true.
It's kind of truncated the mythology around it because they're really trying to make these movies that are on a rail, and they're like little bottle movies that are just the horror or the action or whatever. And Romulus is the same way. But this was a great first look at the expansive world of humans and life. And I thought that was a great idea. That's how you open up a franchise to me. Because now you can do stuff that's on the ground. And this kind of perspective at least opened up the idea of these people aren't really good with weapons. They're not soldiers. They're not even awesome at flying the ship, you know? So we could open that up. The problem is it has to come back to the xenomorphs. How are you going to expand that world without the same xenomorph problem over and over again? And we're going to run out of ways to do that. Eventually, it's just going to be babies with sticks versus xenomorphs. And you're like, is that exciting? I don't know.
Like, the Predator, Prey. We got to go back in time. Well,
exactly.
Yeah. I guess they technically did that with Alien versus Predator. With suddenly there's aliens on Earth, but let's not go there.
And those can go away. Let's pretend those never happened. That's rough stuff. So yeah. All right. Yeah, that's good. Yeah, Romulus, maybe it didn't get enough play. At least it's trying something, right?
But I agree with Ghostbusters. Like, I was expecting the worst because the original director stepped away and said, nah, I got something else I can do. And then it was a guy, like a producer, first time directing, I think.
It was like one of his producer, basically.
Yeah, and actually, it's fine. Like, it's funny enough. It used everybody, I think, well, other than Finn Wolfhard, his character's just, I'm going to deal with Slimer. That's it. That's all I got.
All I can say is it's about time. His on-screen character, like, he's still just playing an extension of himself from Stranger Things, Finn Wolfhard, and everything he's showing up in. And the charm for me is not enough to carry my interest. So that was, I thought, very funny that they fridged him in the Slimer mini story, because what is the point of this whiny teenager? I don't know. His only motivation, his plot line is, I would like to drive the car, please. That's stakes. Wow.
That's it.
Is he going to get to drive the car? I don't know. He's 15 and a half.
Did he
come down to the wire?
Did he drive the car? I don't remember.
He drives the car.
Oh, thank God.
He got to do it.
Thank God. I was worried.
I think you even see him driving in the trailer. Way to blow that one, guys. But yeah, we'll see. I don't feel a lot of momentum in the Ghostbuster franchise. So that, unlike Alien and thing, I don't feel them pushing as hard.
The only thing I liked that they had the Ghost Core. They identified that there are other people doing other things. So there could be a science movie of just the Ghost Core laboratory. They could do a whole thing on that. Which I think, did they have a series? Is there a series? I thought that I heard of a series. Maybe that's what the series is. It's scientists Ghost Core.
Oh, live act. That's cool.
Could be.
That's a cool idea.
Or it might be animated. I don't know, but we'll look into that.
Are there more animated versions of Ghostbusters than any other live action movie that has cartoon versions of it? Whoa.
Ooh.
I wouldn't count like Batman and Superman and Marvel, because those started as, like, there were cartoons and stuff of that way before there were movies. All right, you ready for me to pitch you on watching or not watching the new Demi Moore slam bang talk about it weirdo horror movie, The Substance?
Booyah.
Okay. Have you heard anything about this?
Yes.
Saw a trailer, maybe? Nothing, maybe?
I have an image of her, either her face is messed up or she's crying naked, or maybe I read she cries naked on the bathroom tiles or something. I don't know. That's all I got.
Almost literally the plot of the entire film.
Gotcha.
So, We need to talk about this movie in terms of what it's trying to say to us. The plot is basically irrelevant. And that's sad because it has the real problem of setting up an intensely sort of contrived sci-fi premise along the lines of even in like Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind or Being John Malkovich or something where you're like very weird sci-fi rules apply to what we're going to see here. But it's very quickly apparent that that shit doesn't make sense. That shit doesn't have any logic behind it. There's no emotional believability or real world believability around this thing that happens. So let's talk about it. We're gonna do spoilers. So if you haven't seen The Substance and you want to go see it, go like pause now, go check it out because you're gonna want to talk about it when it's done. The idea is Demi Moore plays basically a jazzercise star. She's still doing workout videos in the modern era, and she's a super sexy workout lady, and she's doing her stuff. She immediately basically overhears that Dennis Quaid, the evil, meanie, misogynistic boss of the network or studio, whatever, it doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. He basically makes it apparent they're already looking for the hot new thing because Demi Moore's now in her 50s and people can't even think women in their 50s are sexy or hot or all anything. So we're going to go for the new young lady. And you're immediately torn as a viewer. I'm immediately torn as a viewer because I'm like, I do like a movie that says, here's my big premise and we're going to play with it. And it's kind of a premise, but I'm also torn because this premise is incredibly important. I like the idea of art discussing the fact that women as they age are treated horribly by all of the industries that take advantage of them when they're young to make money for themselves and to trick other people into these false paradigms of beauty and yada, yada, yada. But we've been making art about that for a long time. It doesn't mean that The Substance shouldn't try to make its own statement about it. But if you're going to do it, you got to try to bring something. You got to try to maybe distract me from how obvious your message is. Otherwise, I'm going to feel a little stuck and distant from the movie. I'm going to feel more like I'm reading a textbook or an article you've written than losing myself in the movie experience and coming out on the other side going, wow. And it was all about how women are mistreated. It blows my mind. Right? I compare this a lot to Poor Things. Poor Things wraps you up and you just take off on the ride with Poor Things. And Poor Things has not exactly the same, but very similar themes around how women are controlled by men in their lives and how men want to take sexual control over the women in their lives. And they talk about it quite literally. On the surface, it is the text, a lot of what they are saying. But because the characters are so entrancing, the world and the story is on a rail, and you're dazzled by what you're seeing while always accepting that the logic of the world holds. They don't betray themselves. The Substance betrays itself constantly. The idea of the premise is, you found out you're getting old and no one wants you anymore. You get a random card or call, and this company, never seen, never described, it's just a voice on a phone, sends you a package. You inject yourself with it, and what it does is basically make a clone of you that's a younger version of yourself. How do you suppose that thing's going to come into existence, Craig? How do you suppose that's going to physically happen in this movie? Well, it's going to birth itself inside of you and then whip itself out the back of you, and then it's going to staple you up, and you're going to be fine. Yeah. But here's where the catch gets really dumb. Here's where they didn't need to wrap themselves up into this much, basically a trap. For some reason, the premise is once you pop out, you are always you. You are you. You are both people. And you can only exist in one of them for 7 days. Why an arbitrary number? Why? Why 1 week? It's not about weeks. It's not about time. They just had to pick a length of time. You can imagine immediately why that betrays the premise. Because the premise is, if you could make yourself younger, then you could start a new career and people would love you again. You can't do that if every 7 days you have to disappear for a week. What are you talking about? She comes out, she's young for 7 days, starts a new career, and at the end of 7 days, she has to go back into her old Demi Moore body for 7 days. How are you supposed to establish a hot new career as the next thing in jazzercise videos when no one can find you after a week?
Oh, interesting.
Or a week. So the idea that they've pinned themselves into a silly premise like that, which they didn't need those mechanics. It could have been more like, the longer you stay that, the worse it gets, or there's another way for there to be punishment in the morals of that decision, rather than hopping back and forth. It falls apart completely so fast. So then you go, wait a minute, how can this sci-fi premise be a thing that's popular and getting handed off from person to person? Why would anyone want to do this? You have look how young I am this week. Then I got fired because I disappeared for a week. And I had to get rehired all over again. What are you talking about? So ultimately, this is why, for me, the substance falls into a category that I very condescendingly, and I appreciate this is not nice, falls into what I call professional student filmmaking. Because when you are a film student, this applies to a lot of artists, but I'll just speak for myself, having been a film student and known many of them. When you are starting to become a film artist and you're starting to tell stories and trying to communicate ideas and feelings with people, sometimes your ego can lie to you and suggest that you're the first person to try to deliver that message. And that your way of doing it, your idea, is the freshest, most direct, the right way to do things. And to me, that loss of perspective is something that lives in a student who hasn't seen that many movies, right? Who hasn't learned that many things, who hasn't run through so many cliches over and over and over that they now find those cliches aberrant to their own creative process and they want to do something new. And I would just suggest that while I give the substance a lot of credit for not just being another nothing, it is something. They are taking a swing. I would just suggest that they really got too wrapped up in the premise and the mechanics needing to be logical, sort of like we talked about with metachlorians or with so many of these other things. And if they had just left it weirder, like a filmmaker like David Cronenberg in the 70s or 80s would have made this, like Dead Ringers is one that's like this with Jeremy Irons, where he plays twin gynecologists, and there's all this body horror stuff. There's ways to do that and drag it out and make it feel very compelling. This ultimately, because it's also low budget, Craig, there's like 3 sets. There's like her apartment, there's like the studio, and the mailbox place where she has to go get her, she has to go down the street to get her stuff. They won't come to the house. Why is that an element of this story? Just so every once in a while, ugly Demi Moore has to put a coat on and be like, I'm running down the street. Bad, bad, bad. Poor Things was a great version of this, where you take a very on-the-nose premise and you wrap it up in so much razzle-dazzle that you're having fun and it goes with you as you leave. The Substance, to me, is a version where I was already over the premise 30 minutes in, and I had to sit through another hour and a half. So by the time I was done, my wife and I were just going, what? What? Not that. Why? What? And that's no way to be connected to a movie and enjoy a movie. Substance done.
Okay. I might check that out.
I would be curious to see your thoughts, because it really does go off the deep end in a way that they think is very fun.
Okay, now we're going to offer, I guess, our own personal top 5 holiday movies that we think people should watch, which I'm going to admit mine is just completely based on bias. It's whatever worked for me. It's not necessarily the best movies or, well, yeah, just
even
whatever.
Good. Maybe they're terrible.
Maybe they're terrible, but for some reason I associate or it's time, if the holidays are approaching, and I finally think, oh yeah, I should probably watch that, or I'm forced to watch that because sometimes it's just what's on TV. So I think you want me to go first?
Yeah, I'd love to see you go first because I'm curious where we're going to cross here because I feel like I've taken a little bit, accidentally stumbled into my own mini game, which absolutely biased. It's about, I was thinking about the ones that I love as I've been doing our 12 Days of Christmas shorts. And I'm realizing as we've been talking about this, I think I'm sort of trying to promote movies that you don't immediately think about as Christmas movies, but definitely are and maybe deserve a little more of a look at the holiday time. So why don't you jump in? Let's see what you got for the first one.
Okay, so if I go bottom up 5, do my countdown. So number 5 is Just Friends. But the only thing with this is I've never actually, Christmas rolls around and I go, oh, I should watch Just Friends. I watch that any time of the year, but it is one of my favorite, it's during Christmas. It works. It's a Christmas movie. Take it.
Totally. One of the big things that really makes it a Christmas movie is so much about family and hometown, where you're from. Like we go back to the hometown at Christmas, we go back to the parents, and the relationship between Ryan Reynolds and his brother is one of the funniest on-screen brother relationships and most violent in a comedy ever. The way they abuse each other is Three Stooges level hilarious. Anna Faris is out of this world funny as Samantha James. I don't think she's been funnier. That's my favorite. That's my favorite Anna Faris.
Yeah, I agree. And Amy Smart. I'm always showing up for Amy Smart. Number 4, it could be controversial, Die Hard, but for some reason, the holidays roll around and I'm just like, I should watch Die Hard. I don't have to wait until, the holidays, Christmas to watch Die Hard, but it feels right. I don't know. I'm in. Number 3, Scrooged.
Oh yeah.
I was always in for Bill Murray, and then it just has so many other great cast members. It gets freaky at times, but every Christmas, a Christmas Carol adaptation at some point has the weird freaky death thing. So it worked out. Yeah, it worked out really well. But yeah, Scrooge is definitely one. If it comes on television, I'm checking it out.
I got 2 things for you on Scrooge. 1, I was scared of it as a kid. I literally did not see it till I was in my 20s because I had a memory of seeing him. I think when he opens up the Ghost of Future Past, whichever is the big scary one, and he opens it up and there's puppet faces in there, living in the rib cage and stuff. It was too much. And so it took me a long time to get to it. But here's the other thing, piece of trivia for you. I learned this doing the 12 Days of Christmas. Scrooged is the only movie in which Bill Murray appears with all 3 of his acting brothers. One of them is the brother who he doesn't go to his party. One of them is a boss of the network or something. And then Joel Murray has a cameo. The young one has a cameo.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I just found that out. It's the only time all 4 of them were in a movie together.
I didn't realize there were that many. That's awesome.
I kind of forgot too. I remember Joel and I remember Brian Doyle, who is the mayor of Pawtucket.
Mm-hmm.
Puxatawney, sorry.
Mm-hmm.
But then the other one is the one I forgot, which I think as a kid I always thought was Bruno Kirby. I thought that guy was Bruno Kirby, but it's actually another Murray. Okay, got it. Just Friends, Die Hard, Scrooged, hit me.
Number 2, not surprising, Home Alone. The first one, love it. Yeah. The music is fantastic. The story is, there's a lot of takes on that movie about who the true jerk is. But I think I OD'd on Home Alone when I was younger, and I stayed away from it for a while, and I watched it last year, and it's phenomenal. I love it.
It's almost perfect. I highly recommend to anybody, if you haven't seen this, Netflix does a great series called The Movies That Made Us. And if you haven't seen the Home Alone episode, Home Alone came this close to not happening in the middle of its production, and the story about it is incredible. It gets shut down and switches studios while it's in production. And the only part I remember to tease that everyone should go watch the story is they're in one building where an executive from, I don't know, did it end up with Fox? I'm trying to remember who it ends up being produced by. I might even have it on the shelf. But anyway, the studio that didn't want it anymore walks through the building firing everybody. They go from room to room, firing the editors, firing the visual effects, firing the Teamsters. And then 5 minutes later, an executive from the new company on the same day follows them and goes through the room rehiring everybody to work on the movie in the new studio. It happened in one day. Whoop, whoop, and they were back in. Wild. Love Home Alone.
I want to say, it's 20th Century Fox. Yep. Because technically Disney owns it now. Just bizarre. And then my number 1 is so obvious in like a cop-out kind of way. A Christmas Story. Like, there's no better, I think, holiday Christmas theme movie, honestly, that I'm not mad if it's on a 12-hour loop. Like, I love that. I love being able to jump in for a couple scenes and then just kind of go do something else, leave it on, and then walk back in and be in other scenes. And then throughout the day, you watch the entire movie, but you're never watching it like chronologically. You're just jumping in and out. And really the fact that it's set decades before I was born, but even as in the 80s and 90s watching it, it's still relatable. Like, everything that happens, very relatable in terms of swearing and, swearing in front of your parents and the gifts you get, especially the embarrassing ones, and
out of touch dads.
Yep.
Not reading the room. There's so many. You're right. You're absolutely right. The kids just read. When I was doing 12 Days of Christmas, the short I did for it is, of course, the triple dog dare tongue getting stuck to the pole. But to me, the real comedy isn't that his tongue gets stuck to the pole. It's that they are now in a medical emergency. This kid might die for all they know. But the bell rings and Ralphie goes, "What do you want me to do?" The bell rang. And he goes, "Come back. Please come back." Like, the bell rang. That's such a perfect encapsulation of kid logic. Yes, this is a panic-inducing thing. Something clearly has to happen. I can't do it. The bell rang. That's wild.
So those, in terms of putting in a top 5, they are all Christmas oriented, but I'd like to point out that Christmas is 2 holidays. It's the commercial holiday and the religious holiday. And I hate to say it, but more people celebrate the commercial holiday. More movies are about the commercial holiday. So there's really no religious bias other than, yes, I was raised Christian, and I'm looking for the other movies.
Yeah. I would love more exposure to more different cultural holiday movies. We'd love it. We don't want to just watch 8 Crazy Nights again.
And I tried. I can't finish that movie.
It's not good.
It's awful. I was like, let me give it a shot. Maybe it'll make my top 5. No, I can't. The old character voiced by Adam Sandler in high pitch like just ruins the entire thing for me.
You're right.
He's so bad. That part of it. That's hard so bad. But actually, the one that I really wanted to put on this list, if I could add a 6, is the Hebrew Hammer.
Hebrew Hammer. Yeah.
The only thing that really keeps it to be on a top 5 list is that it just feels very cheap, because they produced it very low budget. I don't know if it was made for TV. It looks like it. Comedy Central released it on DVD. I don't remember.
It did air on Comedy Central. I think you're right.
Yeah, and I don't remember when I saw it, if it was on television or, because I feel like I watched it with you, but it came out in 2004, and that makes no sense because we would have been out of college. So I don't know when we saw it, but I just watched it. It's on Freevee. So if you have Amazon, it's on Freevee. Check it out. It's not for kids also, but it is hysterical. It's basically Austin Powers, an undercover brother centered around Hanukkah and an evil Santa Claus. But yeah, Hebrew Hammer is definitely worth seeing if you're an adult and you like Undercover Brother, for sure. So yeah,
great callback. I could go watch Undercover Brother again right now.
It's pretty good. I still like it. So how about your 5?
All right, I'm going to do a little bit of adjustment so we don't waste our own time and our audience's time repeating picks. But you help me, because you took a couple of mine for sure.
No, I mean, if they're your picks, I'd say just let them out. Yeah.
But here's the thing. I love them all equally. It gives me a chance to talk to my kids that people care less about.
Gotcha.
So I'm happy to start with my number 5, which was always my number 5. And I love that people don't think about this movie because the spirit part of the Christmas spirit. And then when you bring it up, they go, oh yeah, I could actually really go for that right now. Bad Santa. Billy Bob, Bernie. Actually, also, this is just before John Ritter passes away. He's like the manager of the mall. One of those later John Ritter movies. This movie's absolutely hilarious. Absolutely hilarious. And it is mean-spirited. This is mean-spirited. You watch a lot of these movies where like an anti-hero, like a Bad News Bears, they remade Bad News. Same thing. Billy Bob Thornton is in the Bad News Bears remake. No corners on that. There are no edges to that at all. But this, holy heck, this is a bad person. This is the definition of a misanthropic main character. So the fact that Terry Zwigoff, the director, who also did Ghost World, people know the documentary Crumb about R. Crumb back in the day. That's why he got famous. he makes movies about misanthropic people because Terry Zwigoff hates people. So he has a really great perspective on feeling that way around the holidays. And then when they want to team up Billy Bob Thornton with a hard luck case kid, is it a cute kid? Nah, dog. They went for like any side, the casting, it wasn't like send us your fat kids, right? Because that's mean. You can't put that on a casting call. They probably said, looking for body types of all shapes and sizes. And they just picked this unfortunate kid who is great in the movie. And then ultimately, because Terry Zwigoff starts you off in such a mean-spirited, misanthropic place, when they do the arc, which is the same cliched arc of any one of these stories, to basically learn what the spirit of Christmas is and to become a good person, it's satisfying, and they're still not that good. So highly recommend, if you want the little counter programming to the feel-good side of Christmas, Bad Santa is the way to go. Very funny. Number 4, I'm going to put one of these on the list because this is a huge part of the Christmas movie subgenre. I'm picking number 4, Year Without a Santa Claus. This to me is the greatest of the Rankin Bass animated Christmas movies that show up all the time randomly on TV. This is the one specifically where Santa might not make it and Mrs. Claus has to go to Mother Nature. It's a long convoluted premise we don't have to get into. The point is heat miser and snow miser. The god of heat and the god of snow. And they start singing their songs. And when you're a little kid and you get the catchy song and you're just dancing, I Mr. Green Christmas, I Mr. Sun. Like, that's awesome. Everyone watches Rudolph a million times. Everyone watches Frosty a million times. We get it. Thank you. That's my TED Talk on that.
Nice.
Number three, another one that's a little misanthropic. I'm sort of starting to worry about myself a little bit as I look at this list, to be honest. I gotta go Gremlins. You know what's funny? Talking about like Die Hard as a Christmas movie, Gremlins has a lot of that similar vibe because it is kind of turns into an action-y movie, right? It's really not a horror movie in any way. In some ways, it's sort of like joking about horror movies. When you get into that last sequence of the Gremlins taking over the town, there are many more moments where they zoom in on the Gremlins acting like humans and sort of misunderstanding what they're supposed to be doing. Like they get distracted. They stop tearing the town apart and they just go to a bar and sort of act out adult lives. And that stuff is hilarious. So really, it's like a setup around a Christmas horror movie that just turns into a meta deconstruction of all those things. And this is very, if people don't think about, I know it's set around Christmas, but is it a Christmas movie? Think about the elements. Gizmo, like we talked about, Gizmo is a Christmas present. Also, one of the big moments in the movie is Phoebe Cates remembering the horror of her childhood with her dad in the Santa suit and the chimney. If you haven't seen it, I won't get into it, but it's hilarious. But better than that is when you get to Gremlins 2, she starts doing it again, only she starts talking about a guy in a park that looked like Abe Lincoln. And they're so busy in the plot, Billy goes, we really don't have time for this. And he just grabs her and they leave the moment. Fantastic. So that's number 3, Gremlins.
Oh, yeah, I definitely agree with Gremlins. I love that. Love that movie with like they establish rules and they break the rules, and it's like, see, I told you, kids, there are rules for a reason. If you don't question them, just obey these rules. And that don't do this, don't do that, and they don't explain what happens, and that's why of course it gets broken. So it's one of those great. It's definitely not for kids, but I watched it as a kid. It scared the heck out of me because the Gremlins are freaky looking, but it is the silliest freaking movie. Watching it as an adult, certainly now, I like that one a lot.
Yeah. There's something to the idea in the 70s and 80s of it was okay for kids to have that kind of experience where it was sort of a moral lesson for kids, and parents had more of a harsh idea around children being exposed to that, like the old cultural things around, like in Germany and other places around the world where Santa Claus isn't super nice, and it's more like, if you're not good, you're going to go downstairs and find a stick in your stocking. That means you need to come up and get your butt whooped. It's like crazy. So yeah, very, very interesting the way they do that moral play. And I agree. Nowadays, we would say too harsh for kids, maybe. But kids back then were like, tell you what, I'm going to follow the rules. I'm going to follow these rules too, Mom. All right, number 2. This is genre bending at its best to me. A Nightmare Before Christmas. This movie is so good. I said in the 12 Christmas movie shorts, This one was so good, it needed 2 holiday motifs. It couldn't be held by just Christmas. You had to be Christmas and Halloween all at once. And the songs, ridiculously good. They're bangers in this, right? People sing these songs not at Christmas or at Halloween. You'll hear people just, it's April, this is Halloween, it's so good, so catchy. And what a compelling character. Jack the Pumpkin King is such an interesting figure of someone who wants to feel so much and wants to give so much, but is trapped in this prison, maybe of his own making. We don't get into a lot of the mythology and the background of like how he got there. And we're only waiting for that. One day, Tim Burton in his mid-90s is going to be like, the nightmare before Christmas. And this is the one about young Jack. And we're like, oh God, here we go. But as of now, it just exists as this wonderful world. Oogie Boogie has got to be one of the greatest side characters in like animated movie history. Like, this guy brings such impact, terrified me as a kid, but the song was so good and his little henchmen were so much fun. I actually kept watching it even though I was scared. Nightmare Before Christmas is truly actually a very heartwarming film. And that's beautiful because it starts with such a kind of cold, spooky exterior, right? But there's a really wonderful heart. And then finally, okay, I'm just gonna go right on the nose for this one. I don't love Tim Allen, but I love the Santa Claus. The Santa Claus is a hilarious premise. And I don't just mean the story, I mean the idea that a writer was sitting there one day and went, no, it's like the Santa Claus. And they were like, yeah, no, we get it, Santa Claus. No, I figured this out. Like, legally. And we're like, oh. And it was simple enough for us basic human beings that when that movie came out, we all went, very clever, very good. And it's sort of whatever, sort of basic. The sequels are terrible. Sequels are all terrible. But man, there's nothing like being in Charlie's shoes. The kid. That's the genius of this, is centering with a little bit of the perspective of Charlie, because when you're a kid, imagine if your dad turned into Santa. Are you freaking kidding me? So cool. What a great kid fantasy. And then ultimately, also, I give it a lot of credit for the use of Judge Reinhold, which you don't get a lot of these days. And I certainly loved the premise of him saying to Charlie, the North Pole can't be real. Santa can't be real because you can't see it. You can't touch it. And he says to Judge Reinhold, you ever seen $1 million? You ever seen $1 million? He goes, well, no, I haven't seen $1 million. He goes, how do you know it exists? Let's go, Charlie!
Nice.
Santa Claus number 1.
Yeah, I don't remember much about that one, but I do remember liking it, and I was curious if I need to go back and watch it, which I totally will. So
good list. I like that list.
So we both picked our top 5. I'd like to do this like annually to see if we ever change our mind and add stuff, because I actually watched Christmas with the Cranks last night. I like it. It's
with Jamie Lee Curtis, right? She's one of the Cranks?
She's fantastic. Yes, because of her and Dan Aykroyd's in it, and then obviously Tim Allen. Love Tim Allen. The only thing I don't like about it is the parents don't stick to their guns. They have to like completely go back on what they said. But then I guess that's what brings out the heart of the movie and such, is with everybody rallies together to make it all work. So
is that a house decorating contest? Is that at the center of that one?
Sort of, yes. There's something to do with decorations are it's an interesting premise, and watching it even kind of could empathize with all the stuff going on of just wanting to opt out on Christmas and how people just can't understand is something wrong? It's like, no, we're just not doing it this year. But you can't do that. It's like, what do you mean I can't do that?
That breaks my own perception of reality.
It's too expensive to do it every year. I mean, come on, guys, and like no one thinks that. They're just like, no, we gotta spend the money, gotta keep that cash cow going. That one might be on my list next year. I don't know.
Okay, I will watch that. I'm gonna give it before we get there, because I haven't seen that since maybe ever. Actually,
I don't think I ever saw it. Yeah, I think I skipped it because it might have just come out when I was like, I mean, I love me some Tim Allen, but I think I need a break. But
all right, well, here's the one I would put on my radar, or our radar, people's radar, for the possible end of 2025 list, because I saw it in theaters and I saved it to bring up to talk in this category. Red One was fantastic. Red One is very, very, very good. There's a reason they get J.K. Simmons. When you have The Rock do a movie like this, you're like, yeah, The Rock makes big family movies. We get that. Then you start to see the other people saying yes to this and getting involved. You're like, I don't think J.K. Simmons is just be like, any goofball Christmas movie? Yeah, of course. It doesn't feel like J.K. Simmons' path right now. So when he does Santa, you kind of feel like something's going on, and it's just really well made. The money is on screen, and I think I mentioned this in my review. I won't spoil it at all, but they take a swing at actually explaining how Santa pulls off the nightly ride. They actually try to do it. And you're like, okay, maybe this is why we're here. Maybe this is the whole reason they did this, but super fun. The Rock is great. Chris Evans is great. Why is Chris Evans in this movie? Because it's good. And he knew it was going to be good. So really, really solid. I think people will kind of get into it over this winter, and we'll see if next year it's making people's list. It's going to stick around, Redwood.
Good to know. Good to know. Thanks for watching, everyone. Oh, and please like and subscribe. Check out more of our videos. Leave a comment. Or don't. You do you.